Hi again, everybody. John McLaughlin with a very special Warrior Wednesday. And a true warrior. We have the Republican candidate for Attorney General joining us. Brenna Bird is here, and Brenna was at our Second Amendment Day at the Capitol in February, delivered an outstanding speech, and maybe you've seen some of the video clips that have been on the Iowa Firearms Coalition Facebook page with some of her comments there. So first of all, Brenna, for folks that may not remember back in 2010 when you ran for Attorney General against Tom Miller back then, a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into all the Second Amendment stuff.
Sure. Yeah. So I was born and raised on a farm near Dexter, and my husband and I and our son, well, we still live on the family farm, but it's my grandpa's farm in the house my grandpa built in Guthrie County. And I serve as the Guthrie County attorney. I've been a prosecutor for about, I guess, 6 years now. And before that, I was legal counsel to Governor Branstad and then Lieutenant Governor Reynolds. Mm-hmm. I've also worked in private practice and as a chief of staff for a member of Congress. So I think all of those things are good, but the best experience I've got when it comes to running for office is growing up on a farm, because you know how to work hard and get things done.
Right, and probably shot guns back then, I would guess too.
Oh yeah, yep. When I was and I would say gun safety was always really important at our house because we were right by the interstate, so we always had guns in the house. And from the earliest age, we understood the importance of gun safety. And I remember my dad taking us out with the .22 rifle, and we'd sit in the snow in our little snow suits, and he'd sit our little rear ends on the ground. And he would help us to hold the rifle, by ourselves with supervision, and we'd try to shoot some rusty tin cans. That was how we got started.
22 caliber rifle is a great way to start. So I'm going to get into the Second Amendment sanctuary. I know as this started to kind of foster itself in Iowa with the push from the Iowa Firearms Coalition, you out there in Guthrie County were among the first to kind of jump on the bandwagon for that.
Yeah, we sure were. Guthrie County was one of the first Second Amendment sanctuary counties, and our Board of Supervisors voted to pass that. Our sheriff supported it. I supported it. And I think Guthrie County is a place that respects the Second Amendment. Our sheriff has always been friendly to law-abiding gun owners and a good person to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's important, more so every single day, that not just our politicians, but our everyday people are taking a stand. And so I think the Second Amendment sanctuary thing is important because it does show that at least with the folks that are kind of leading the county, they're taking a stand to say, hey, we protect Second Amendment rights here, and we're not just going to let the federal government come in and kind of infringe on those rights.
That's right. This is a time with the Second Amendment for everybody to stand up and be counted. And so I think the voices of counties very important.
Now, as we get into November, we have our Freedom Amendment, which will be on the ballot statewide. Folks will have to flip over to find it. And the language will actually be on the ballot. It's kind of being fine-tuned now, but encourage folks to remember to flip over the ballot to find the Freedom Amendment. What are your thoughts on that? If we can get this passed and finally get Second Amendment protection in the Iowa Constitution, that's no guarantee that the Bloombergs of the world are not going to all of a sudden descend on Iowa with multiple lawsuits. Why is it so important that you are going to be the Attorney General then and not the way it is now?
Well, our current Attorney General has been there a long time. He got elected in 1978, and he does not support the Second Amendment. And it's the job of the Attorney General to defend our laws when they are challenged in court. That's very important. And you need to have an Attorney General who believes in the Second Amendment, who will mount a good defense, because you can bet that when that amendment passes, the way that it will be fought next is in the courts. And that's where the Attorney General takes up the defense of the Second Amendment.
And I imagine this may be a personal question, but do you have a permit to carry in Iowa? Are you a true Second Amendment person that, at least carries a gun some of the time?
Yeah. So, yeah, I have a permit to carry as a prosecutor, as a county attorney. I would say that's pretty necessary sometimes. Sometimes when you're tough on the bad guys, they aren't always too happy with you. And so I think that being able to defend myself and, my husband as well, he has a permit to carry as well. We take that very seriously.
Yeah, and granted, we have constitutional carry in Iowa now, but I'm always amused when you talk to, some folks that are running for office or already in office. And, back before we had constitutional carry, you say, well, do you have a permit to carry? Oh, no. Do you own a pistol or a rifle? Oh, no. It's like, okay, well, you can still support the Second Amendment, but it just lends credence when you've actually done the steps and shown some incentive to get things done. And I don't know, it makes me a little more trustworthy of folks like yourself that have actually done it.
Well, thanks, John. And I also have to say, if it wasn't for the job as a prosecutor, I don't think I would understand it even quite so fully as I do now. When, when I have someone that has threatened me or my family, it really makes me appreciate that I live in a country where we have a Second Amendment. Other people in the world, they don't have the recognition of this right like we do in the United States. So I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, I just a few weeks ago interviewed a good friend of mine who's a firearms instructor in Canada, and how difficult it is for them to do any kind of training to even acquire a pistol in Canada. It's like you have to have a special blessing from the Prime Minister and such. So we're very fortunate that our founding fathers realized what our natural rights were and gave us that protection. So let's get into a little bit about it's just a pet peeve of mine, in that I watch the news fairly constantly, and we see attorneys general in all these different states like suing the ATF or putting their name on a letter that's going to the ATF to say, hey, these administrative rules you're making in the middle of the night, you can't just make this stuff up and turn a good law-abiding person into a felon the next day because of having a 30-round magazine for their AR-15 or something like that. And people always ask me, John, you're from Iowa, you have a governor that you actually helped train to get her pistol skills sharpened up. Why do we never see Iowa on these letters that are going around?
Well, it's because the current Attorney General's been there a long time, and he just does not support the right to keep and bear arms. He is not a supporter of the Second Amendment at all. He's been a thorn in the side of those who support Second Amendment rights for a long time, and he does not join with the good states that work to protect our Second Amendment rights. And there are all kinds of different ways that in other states, their attorneys general are standing up for what is right. Tom Miller's not one of them. He's missing in action.
Right, definitely. That's good to quote an old Chuck Norris movie there. So what would you be able to do, you think, in your position, besides supporting the governor, if she tells you, Brenna, let's jump on this and put our names on this? But besides that, how can Iowa kind of start leading the way rather than kind of being a follower or, having to fight to try to support, these anti-2A things that are just going to keep coming up until we get a change of administration again in the future?
Well, the first thing we do is stand up to Biden's agenda coming out of Washington, whether it's the ATF or through other agencies. And where appropriate, we challenge those things in court, working with other states. That is something that is very important to stop these bad things. There are also ways that we can engage in supporting the lawsuits that other states have to hold him accountable, as well as different things we can do during the rulemaking process to make our voices heard. And, the thing I want for President Joe Biden to understand about what's going to change in Iowa with the Attorney General is our current Attorney General just sits there quietly and doesn't do anything. Mm-hmm. When I'm elected, my message to Joe Biden is, I'll see you in court, because that's right. What we're going to do.
Amen. That is good to hear. Jumping back to the Freedom Amendment a little bit, I'm just watching my phone here and looking at some comments that are I asked some of our other board members and such just for their ideas. One of the confusing parts of the Freedom Amendment is when it gets to the strict scrutiny. Can you describe that a little more? Why was it important for the amendment as it's written to have that subject to strict scrutiny?
Yeah, so strict scrutiny is the standard that a court would use when reviewing things that would come under that constitutional amendment. And basically it means there has to be a compelling governmental interest that is narrowly tailored to the law in order to achieve that interest. So it protects people's rights by making the government, if they're going to try to somehow infringe or regulate that Second Amendment right, it has to be related to a compelling government interest, not just any interest, and it has to be narrowly tailored to achieve that end. So not overbroad, not taking in more than what needs to be covered, but narrowly tailored. And those kinds of principles are well established in constitutional law. So it's good language to have in an amendment so that the courts in Iowa understand just what this amendment does.
Right. I think that was the important part right there, is people look at that and think, well, that's providing an opening for them to come and try to undo this, but what it's really doing is protecting it.
It really protects, right? It really protects, absolutely.
So obviously the folks in the Iowa Firearms Coalition are on your side, but what can maybe somebody that's, well, let's just go with so many people, I think it's like 8 million or something in the last year or so have purchased guns. Many of those are not conservative, but folks that are watching what's happening in the country and think, boy, I need a firearm for protection. Or what if, the grocery stores run out of groceries and people start breaking into homes? Why is it important that even folks that are maybe more toward the center or on the liberal side support Brenna Byrd?
Yeah, well, it's important that we have an attorney general who understands the Second Amendment and believes in our Second Amendment rights so that we can defend those. And as you said, when this constitutional amendment passes, the next battleground will be in the courts as people activists try to sue through the courts to basically amend the law through the courts. And yes, I mean, I think the Second Amendment applies to all Americans, not based on their political philosophy. It's not just for people who might be Republican or conservative. It's a right just like the free speech right is. It applies to everybody in the United States.
Yeah, and that is so key for people to realize that when we're voting for our attorney general, the Second Amendment is for everybody. And I have taught a lot of classes and continue to help teach classes. And definitely the trend has been a lot more people where they actually, after the class, say, hey, I just want to say I appreciate you treating me like you treated everybody else, because they may come from a different ethnic background or religion or something. But the 2A is like, all inclusive. And I think it's important that we get that word out, that it's not tribal. It's not one group versus another. Our arms are open, saying, come get training, come how to safely operate your handgun.
Yes, I think that is so important. I'm glad you're doing that.
All right, Brenna, how can folks find out more about you? Give us all your social contacts, the best way to learn more, and maybe even get in and volunteer for your campaign.
Well, that would be great, because the way we get this done is with everybody helping in all 99 counties in Iowa. So our website is birdforiowa.com, birdforiowa.com. And we also have a Facebook page, Brenna Byrd for Attorney General. And if people want to get involved, send us a message and we'll get you involved.
All right, awesome. We appreciate you being a warrior for the Second Amendment in Iowa. And God willing, we'll have a new Attorney General in November, and welcome you to join IFC in the fight to keep our Second Amendment in place and preserve this incremental erosion of rights that's been happening all over the country.
Yeah, well, thank you. With your help, we will do it. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much, and good luck in the campaign, and hopefully we'll see you down the road here soon.
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.